It's time to look at stories making headlines on the front page of newspapers, and joining me in the studio is strategy consultant and public affairs analyst Dikbo Oyiwole. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, as well as lawyer and public affairs analyst Tunji Abdulhamid. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. All
right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the blueprint. Restructuring. NEF backs Afenifere Ohaneze SMBLF. Says something is wrong with the country's structure. It will ginger our governors' Arewa youth. We are yet to take a stand. ACF process already ongoing presidency. You find our story on the front page of the blueprint. Now we move to the front page of the Daily Trust. SARS excesses fester. Special squad can't be scrapped. Force headquarters. Impunity reigns despite several reforms. Why reforms failed? Ex-AIG. All right. Now we'll move to the front page of the News Direct. NSC posts highest daily gain to cross 15 trillion naira mark. Gains 708.18 billion on Tuesday. Increase is driven by FBI, low yield in money market instruments, analysts. And to the front page of the National Economy World Trade Organization, DG Nasima TUC, others rally support for Okonjo-Iweala. And on the front page of the Daily Times now, states IGR shrinks by 11.7% as debt portfolio nears 34 trillion naira. All right, on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, under governorship poll, Akeredolu, Jegede, Ajayi, others sign peace pact. Don't lower the bar, INEC warns politicians. Army personnel will conduct themselves professionally, Buratai assures. NSCDC deploys 7,079 personnel, sniffer dogs. Ensure poll reflects the people's will, the U.S. tells INEC security agencies. And finally, on the front page of the Business Day, in 10 numbers, how Nigerians' biggest firms have fared in 2020. All right, let's go straight to the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Now, I'm certain this will interest you, gentlemen, talking about the Ondo governorship polls. We're counting down already. And yesterday, there was a peace accord signed, like we saw happen before the Edo State governorship election, and reactions have been trailing that perhaps what we saw in Edo State could be seen played again in Edo State. Even the citizens are saying perhaps this is what could happen, a peaceful election as we saw. I'll start with you, Dikbo.
Yes, so it's everyone's hope that we have peaceful elections. I mean, so you even saw where INEC said that they shouldn't lower the bar because the other state elections that was recently completed, so far by every indicator and by all the observers have said that it's the fairest and the freest that we've had in recent times. So yes, one would hope that the peace pact that was signed would make sure that there isn't any violence, that they will talk to their supporters to ensure that things go smoothly as they should. But I mean, it's anybody's guess what happens in reality on the day of the election, but we are quite hopeful that the standards that have been set by the last elections in Edo State would cascade into a peaceful elections and a fair one in Edo State in a couple of days.
Let me come to you, Tunji. Do we need a peace pact to commit to having a peaceful election? I mean, democracy isn't, this is not what we used to know until recent times. We began signing peace accords.
Yeah, I think generally, ordinarily, we don't need any peace pact, because to me, peace pact does not guarantee peaceful election. What guarantees a peaceful election in this country is when the INEC and the security agencies conduct themselves in a neutral manner. In other words, they are not partial. They are not in favor of anybody. They do their job the way it's been done professionally, not supporting one party.
How about the people that are playing in the election? Talking about the key people here, talking about those contesting the elections now. Shouldn't they conduct themselves as well?
No,
aren't they the ones influencing people, perhaps INEC and all of that, security agencies, because that's the question Nigerians are raising, that it is not necessarily about INEC, it's about the key gladiators here now.
Yeah, it may be about the key gladiators, but INEC has their own, what's it called, blame in that regard. Because security in terms of election is the duty of INEC to ensure. In other words, by our law, INEC has the power when it comes to election to direct the security on how he wants them to operate. So as far as I'm concerned, no individual is bigger than the country. No individual is bigger than the security agencies. If you say you have that tendency, and they are able to do that, and they do their job without fear of favor or without even being partitioned or whatever, we have free and fair election. We have free and fair election in Edo State, not because of the peace part. It is because the security and the INEC decide not to be partial. They play an impartial role, and that was why we have that peaceful conduct of the election. If you continue to have a situation whereby INEC and the security agencies would not support any candidate or any party or anybody, then we will have a free and fair election. Those drag that they are doing is just for initial to scare away people and to be able to manipulate using their own security.
Scaring away people, but that is not what democracy will be, because some would say that at this stage of our democracy, we should have moved past influencing. We should have moved past scaring people, Dikbo.
Yeah, so it is the ideal thing that should be happening, but unfortunately that's not what we're seeing, which would take me back to certain conversations we've had here on this program, talking about the kind of decadence we have in the educational sector. Now, this is why I say that. Now, when you have people who are educated, who have their minds empowered, they know their rights, they know to demand for their rights, they know to ask better from the people in government. Now, these are the same people who also know that giving them a 2,500 naira and maybe Ankara and maybe a bin or a pair of slippers should not influence their decisions at the polls. Now, we have the educational system today as it is, and we have the kind of minds.
So invariably, you're saying this is a deliberate effort
by
those key gladiators in government to ensure that people react to issues like election this way.
Yes, it is, because an uneducated mind is a mind that is easily influenced. Now, when I say educated, I don't mean necessarily going to school to get an engineering degree. We have people who have to go through primary 1 to primary 6 and then go to technical colleges, but some form of formal education, okay? Now, the systems we've had so far has somehow deliberately been able to cripple all the educational systems that we will have in this country, and so far it is just unacceptable, because they know that the people that do not know how to demand for better governance do not get it. So that's why our politicians always look for the next election cycle to give out handouts to see how they can influence the elections, which I think it is quite embarrassing and it is really shameful.
All right, we're going to have about 7,000, and NSCDC is deploying over 7,000 of its personnel, and we have over 3,000 other security personnel as well being deployed for this election for security purposes. And if you recall, the president before the Edo election talked about the election now becoming a do or die affair. How did we get to this point for you?
It has always been a do or die affair in this country since 1999. No, apart from the 1999 election, other subsequent election has been do or die affair, because most of the people who are contesting or who are aspiring to occupy the positions are not thinking about the people. They are thinking about their personal benefit, not for service. If they are going there for service, it won't be like that. But we see this position as an avenue to uplift our profile, our standard of living, our individuals' personal aggrandizement, and then to achieve worldly benefit to themselves. If they are truly for the people, they will not be there. It won't be a do or die affair, because the service should not be a do or die affair. But the basic issue is that they are not there for the purpose of the welfare of the people.
You talked about demanding accountability, like he also talked about earlier, and he said education is one of the key factors why a lot of people, things are tilting towards the way it is now. Nigerians seems to be getting that awakening, so to speak, because from what you see on social media, uproar for one thing or the other, demanding for restructuring, demanding for end to SARS, making several demands. at this point, seeing an election for Ondo State, for instance, can we begin to see that change, demanding accountability, ensuring that their will is reflected in elections?
We can if we actually, if we are interested in the process. I'm not carried away by the social media uproar. I'm not carried away by it, because by the time we have the election now, you will see out of probably 2 million voters, you will see about 400 people coming out to vote. Especially the so-called elites. They don't always vote. They only talk. And when we talk and we don't participate in the process, we're not encouraging. We
can't see the change.
We can't change anything. So what we should do is not about talking. It's about ensuring that we participate in the process. The youth are asking them to come and do election as if they are doing you a favor. You are asking them to come and go and vote. Let's go and vote for these people. They will see you as they are doing a favor, and they'll be asking you what is need for me? What are you giving me? So until we change our attitude, both the elites, both the youth, both the most people that participate in the election are old women. They are the most large number of people. Those who call illiterates,
yes.
Those who call market women. So until we all realize that, look, this is our thing. We need to be there. Abandoning it for them because some people will complain that the process is bad, it's not good, or whatever.
All right.
We will help them more.
All right, let's leave the conversation here. Tunji Abdul Hamid, Dikpo Oyewole, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you
very much, Kemi. It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. Joining me now is strategy consultant and public affairs analyst Dikpo Oyewole, and lawyer and public affairs analyst Tunji Abdul Hamid. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So we'll look at the following newspapers now, starting with the Blueprint. It says here, restructuring, NEF backs Afenifere Ohaneze, SMBLF, says something is wrong with the country's structure. It will ginger our governor, says Arewa. We are yet to take a stand, says ACF. Process already ongoing, says presidency. The Daily Trust says SARS excesses fester. Special squad can't be scrapped, says force headquarters. Impunity reigns despite several reforms. Why reforms failed, that's according to XAIG. The News Direct is saying here, Nigerian News Direct says here, NSE post highest daily gain to cross 15 trillion naira mark, gains 708.18 billion naira on Tuesday. Increase is driven by FPI, low yield in money market instruments, as according to analysts. The National Economy says WTO DG, of course, let's take Daily Times first of all. It says states IGR shrinks by 11.7% as debt portfolio nears 34 trillion naira. National Economy says WTO DG, Nasima, TUC, others rally support for Okonjo-Iweala. All right, we'll move to the leadership newspaper this morning. Ondo governorship poll, Akeredolu, Jegede, Ajayi, others sign peace pact. The writer says, don't lower the bar, INEC warned politicians. Army personnel will conduct themselves professionally, Burote assures. NSCDC deploys 7,079 personnel, sniffer dogs. Ensure poll reflects the people's will, US tells INEC security agencies. Business Day says, yeah, in 10 numbers, how Nigeria's biggest firms have fared in 2020. All right, so we'll stick with the Blueprint newspaper this morning. It's talking about restructuring. It says, yeah, NEF backs Afenifere Ohaneze, SMBLF, says something is wrong with the country's structure. To ginger our governor, says Arewa Youth. Yet to take his stand, says ACF. Process already ongoing. That's according to the presidency. So let's stick with the Blueprint this morning to talk about this restructuring debate. A lot of times people talk about restructuring, and my question to you, gentlemen, is what do they mean? What's the mindset when it comes to the issue of restructuring?
For me, I would say restructuring is reallocation of resources. Now, reallocation of resources as to how it is being distributed and executed within the system of government.
Well, is that the mindset?
Ideally, that is what it should be, but
yeah.
The mindset, I think it's something a bit more perverse, saying that it will be them giving up some form of control at the center, which, truth be told, that isn't the issue. But I think that is really the mindset, thinking that having to let go of some resources or also translates to letting go of certain influences that you get to have over states, which for me, it isn't a progressive way to think. And I think that, yes, we've been talking about restructuring, and I think that now is the time for us to get it done, because we've been talking about the nation being broke and not being able to manage certain resources that we have. So I think it's time to push it back to the states to see how they can generate revenue and see how they can deploy said revenue to improve the lives of their citizens within their own states.
All right. Why do we have to restructure?
We need to restructure because when you can't be doing a thing in a particular way, and it's not giving you result, and you keep on doing it the same way, you will not get that result.
That's what they say.
So we need to restructure, because when they talk about restructuring, we are saying, look, let's change the way and manner things are being done now. In other words, let's change the way and manner we are sharing our allocations of resources. Let's change the way and manner power is being devolved to state, federal, or whatever. We know, and why we are having this debate, as far as I'm concerned, is because of the insincerity of those in government or the political elites. When they are campaigning, whenever they are campaigning,
they always talk about restructuring.
Then when they get to the government, when they are given the opportunity, they'll begin to ask, what is restructuring? I remember the APC, when they were doing a campaign, they talked about restructuring, and then when they came into power, they set up a committee to determine what is restructuring. The PDP, the same thing. They did the same thing. They talk about restructuring. People who are clamoring for it now, they are once in PDP, and they talk about restructuring, they did not implement it at that time. So it's the insincerity of our people. And even if you have restructuring, and that sincerity is not there, that willpower, that the political will to enforce or implement those restructuring of a thing will not get to anywhere. But so our problem is generally not basically restructuring. It's about ourselves. Restructuring of our mindset. Restructuring of the way and manner we do things. That's when we can get it right. The
2014 confab report comes to mind, and of course it provides for the way things will be done in Nigeria, but we haven't visited that since that report it came to the fore. Why are we dilly-dallying?
Like he rightly said, it's the insincerity of the will to do it, and also insincerity of purpose to do it. A lot of money was spent to get that report out, and somehow that's gone down the drain. And I'm sure that with a lot of conversation around restructuring now, don't be surprised that another committee will be set up and billions of naira will be budgeted to have the same, to arrive at the same conclusion. But yes, it still boils down to the insincerity of it. But this much I would say, that for me it shows that we have a keen culture with regards to waste. Because if we're looking at it from a sensible point of view, we spent a lot of money to get this report out. Why aren't we executing it? Why aren't we having a conversation around it? Why aren't we doing anything about it? So then what was the objective of it? Are we going to say that because it was done by maybe some administration that isn't yours and all, we are all part of a nation?
Government is a continuum.
Is a continuum. So until we understand that fact, we will keep treating certain things as, oh, this was done by a certain party, this was done by a certain administration, which for me, it isn't just sustainable in any way. And that is why we are where we are today as a people.
All right, so there's something here on the rider of the blueprint. It says something is wrong with the country's structure. That's according to Afenifere, and okay, NEF is backing Afenifere Hanis is saying that something is wrong with Nigeria's structure. Looking back now, are you saying that we took over from the colonial masters quite early?
It may not be too quite early. The way and manner we are acting as if we were not prepared at that time when it was given to us. But I think it's not preparation for that kind of a thing should not be a long thing. It's been 60 years now or more that have been there. If you can't work, if a child who cannot work after 60 years, that's no longer, that's a problem. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not about early takeover from the or handing over by the colonial. It's about ourselves. In fact, we have even colonized ourselves more than the colonial, what they call the colonial masters. So we are in a situation whereby people see the masses or the children of the masses as what's it called? Let's protect people as not deserving certain thing. That is because of fingers are not equal, and then you say you have to take it like that because that's how
it's done.
Yes, it can't be. Everybody must be equal. A situation whereby we talk about women must have this, men must have this and that. That will not lead us to anywhere. We are just deceiving ourselves. Let's see everybody as one. Let's see ourselves as people. Let's see ourselves, everybody, whatever you are entitled to, I should be entitled to it, wherever I come from. So the issue of restructuring, yes, restructuring is part of, because what I know about restructuring, what I understand as restructuring is let's do things in a different way. Let's change certain things in our system. In what
way? What are we to change?
For instance, I am not in support of a decision whereby a federal government would the power or area where the federal government has a influence is too much, as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand why the government will be the one to control the roads in every state. I don't understand why they will collect 51% of the total allocation, and then the 49 or so that the remaining will be shared by all other. Okay. Those are not proper. You give almost all the power to the federal government. It's not done anywhere. You can't get any result. I'm very sure the president does not even know my town,
perhaps if we restructure,
my street.
If we properly restructure, the powers of the presidency will be reduced, and maybe that's the fear.
That's one of the things that will be done. That I will be asking for. That certain powers from the what's it called that has been given to the federal government now should be reduced.
But you take the power from the presidency and you give it to the state. Won't it make the state high-handed?
No, you will distribute it equally in a way that it will not one will not be too influential. That's why you see everybody running to Abuja, because that's why the power is. The federal government has the power to do don't do anything. Once you are against the federal government, you may not even get anything done in your state.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us on this topic of restructuring. Of course, it's been a recurring issue, of course, and of course, it might continue beyond now. Thank you so much for talking to us on this.
Thank you for having me.